Welcome to today's podcast. Today we're going to be discussing something very concrete because so far in this podcast, my show, Kevin Roberts Show, we've discussed a lot of issues around how technology is making an impact on our lives, making it an impact on how we feel joy, how we feel reward, how we feel a sense of satisfaction. Today, we're going to get into some nuts and bolts about school. That's one of my areas of expertise. For the last 3 decades, I have been significantly focused on helping young people succeed in school. Basically from age 11 all the way through college and professional school. Right now, I have somebody I'm working with in medical school. I have somebody I'm working with who's doing his PhD in chemistry. And I also have a couple 11-year-olds who were over yesterday and we were doing homework and studying for tests. So I work with people all across the board. And one of the things that I've noticed is that with artificial intelligence and with technology, people are not studying the way that they need to. They're not studying in ways that lead to an enhancement of their brains. We're not helping young people properly develop their brains. We're not helping young people properly develop their intellectual capabilities. So today, and by the way, this show today was inspired by a couple of 16-year-old young men I was working with last night. And I asked them, I said, what would you guys like to see me talk about in the podcast? And both of them said, I think people would really appreciate some of your study tips and some of your success strategies. I thought, what a great idea. So that's what we're going to do today. Now remember, if you can figure out how to have success in school the right way, you're probably going to have a happier and healthier life as well. School is so fundamental to a lot of other aspects in our life. So, without further ado, I'm going to go right into it. And my first study tip is multisensory learning. Number 1, multisensory learning. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to give you an example. A lot of kids that when they come to see me, I ask them how they study. And you know what a lot of them do? They just find a Quizlet. They probably didn't make the Quizlet. Somebody in their class made the Quizlet. They found it by some random person who also had high school chemistry online. And then they plop down on the couch or they plop down in a chair and they just simply roll through the Quizlet over and over and over and over again. Now that's okay. Working with a Quizlet is a whole lot better than not doing anything. But I'm going to give you a couple tips right now of how to make studying with Quizlet a multisensory experience. Well, what does multisensory mean? It means involving the other senses. Now, if I'm studying the Quizlet, it says it's visual, so I'm using my eyes. But it can be helpful if I move my body. It can be helpful if I integrate movement in my body with visual stimulation. So, this is a real simple way to begin to make your study time more dynamic. So instead of sitting down on the couch, stand up. Stand at the kitchen counter. You could take that Quizlet and you can get on an exercise bike, put it on the little monitor on the top, and put that on there. And while you're on the exercise bike, you can study Quizlet. You could study Quizlet on the couch for 5 minutes, and then you could get up and you could go move to some other place in the house. Now, believe it or not, when you use your body, when you move right along with trying to visually absorb information, you're actually creating other activations in the brain. And when you activate more than 1 or 2 areas of the brain as part of your studying, the information will stick better. Your brain will be more active. A more active body leads to a more active brain, and a more active brain means that the time you are spending going over that Quizlet is more efficient and more productive. It may sound really simple, and it is, but you got to do it. You can't just do it once, you got to do it all the time. Now, let me just say one caveat. If you use this method and try to incorporate movement into your studying, you got to do it safely. So I wouldn't recommend getting Quizlet on your phone and then going out for a jog. I've had people who got on the treadmill and tried to do this, and that's fine, but boy, you got to really be careful. You may want to just go slowly. So safety first, but movement along with trying to visually absorb and interact with information, is going to really help you. Now, let's take that idea of Quizlet, which is essentially electronic flashcards. Let's take that to move to our second study strategy that I'm going to recommend. And the general term for this second recommendation is go old school. What does that mean? Sometimes the old methods actually work really well. Now, you want to do a Quizlet because you want to have that experience of going through information and looking at flashcards, flipping stuff over. Guess what? If you get some actual 3x5 note cards and you make your own flashcards, you're not only using the process of creating that flashcard set as an outlet for creativity. You're creating. That's making the brain more active. Also, when you're doing that, it's a hands-on experience. Rather than just passively relying on Quizlet, you are actively engaging with the information, and actively engaging with the information is going to make it easier to absorb it. Again, believe it or not, this is also a multi-sensory learning experience. It's taking the work of studying and engaging with it instead of just passively picking up on information. You know, part of the problem with artificial intelligence is it's great. I use it. I use it to make practice tests. I use it to create dialogue. I call it didactic dialogues, where I engage with AI and ask it questions and go back and forth, and then I use those dialogues to help other students learn. It's great, but it's easy to just become over-reliant on artificial intelligence, and the information doesn't really stick too well. The other thing is, if I am not taking great care to make sure that I'm engaged with my learning, then I'm not fully developing my brain. The brain is a curious organ. The more you do something, the more actively engaged you are in doing something, the more you enhance the neuronal connections in the brain. And I'm going to talk about memory at the end, but it does get to the idea of memory. So when you make your own note cards, you might have to go through the chapter. You might have to go to the teacher's notes. But when you do that, you've automatically created a more active brain, and you've helped ensure that the information is going to stick there. And it's not just going to stick there for this upcoming test, but it's going to stick there for the longer haul. So again, step number 2, study guide number 2, go old school. Number 3 is also about going old school. You may think, for recommending number 3, that I'm actually crazy. Number 3 is, get ready, because this is maybe going to scare you. Read. Now, if you're an adult and you're watching this, you're going, well, what do you mean? Don't the kids read? No. Most kids don't read anymore. If you think of books for English language, literature courses, 9th grade, 10th grade, whatever, a lot of kids are not reading. What are they doing? They're going to SparkNotes and they're looking up summaries. They're going to AI. Let's say I got to read chapters 1 through 5 for The Great Gatsby, and that's due tomorrow. These kids are going to AI and they're saying, give me a summary of chapters 1 through 5 for The Great Gatsby. And if they're really diligent, they might say, give me questions that the teacher might ask for a reading quiz for chapters 1 through 5 on The Great Gatsby. AI will spit that stuff out. And so they may actually do well on the quiz, but here's the problem. Reading is a neurologically rich activity. When we read, the two sides of our brains work together. We establish connections and we improve many aspects of learning. We improved, certainly, our ability to memorize and retain information. We also improve our critical thinking skills. And we also, and this is particularly crucial and critical to what's going on with AI right now and with learning right now, we also actually increase our attention spans. Now, along with that, guess what two critical functions that will become increasingly important as AI further embeds itself into our culture? What two functions does actually reading enhance? Imagination and creativity. So I really want you all to consider reading. I'm going to be running some book clubs, fun book clubs for kids this summer. So I'm going to handle middle schoolers and high schoolers, and I've got a couple other elementary school teachers who are going to be working with me, but I'm going to actually have book clubs, and I'm going to help young people find out that they actually may enjoy reading, and I'm going to make reading a fun activity because I'm really concerned that we're not actively developing our brains, and we're sending young people into the world without fully developed intellectual capacities. You know, I read an article by a professor at Columbia University, a very well-respected university that's very selective, and this professor said that his freshman students cannot read a whole novel. These are kids that got into Columbia. So I really worry that if you're overly reliant on AI and you're not actually reading, that you're not really going to be a great employee in the future. And you may have a hard time finding work, and we may be kind of screwing ourselves as a society. So those are the three big takeaways from today. I want you to practice making learning multisensory. I want you to practice going old school, which could mean making flashcards, making your own note cards, maybe using different colors, maybe getting creative. I also want you to consider actually reading. And by the way, if you can bring yourself to try to read, you can actually make reading a multi-sensory experience. Here's how you do it. You get on an exercise bike, you have your book right there, you read while you're on the exercise bike. Here's what I do for myself, because I sometimes lose focus. I put a timer on. My timer stays on for 10 minutes. I read in one location for 10 minutes, it goes off, and I move. So I'm actually incorporating movement, and that helps me maintain my focus on the reading. I'm going to keep coming back with this kind of stuff because I'm getting a lot of parents and a lot of young people who are asking me, how can I be the best student possible given what's coming with AI? AI is going to fundamentally transform many aspects of our lives, but if you will take care to develop your brain, to develop your intellectual skills, and especially develop your imaginative and creative powers, you can do incredibly well in the AI revolution that we're in the midst of right now. Please go down and hit subscribe right now. Hit the like button and share this, because if you believe this information is important, other people need to hear it and see it as well. And by hitting subscribe and like, you make that possible. Thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you real soon.